What's going on, guys? Radio Graffiti here, and today I want to talk to you guys about Thunderbolts. This is the latest movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's basically Marvel's answer to Suicide Squad. You got a group of people who don't like each other who are forced to team up to stop an evil government lady. I actually really enjoyed this film. I guess I'll start by going through the characters. Let's start off with Taskmaster. I think it's pretty funny that this character was brought back from Black Widow just to have her get popped by Ghost. Comic book fans of Taskmaster are probably outside of Kevin Feige's house with pitchforks. This character has been done dirty her entire existence in the MCU, so I guess it's fitting that she'd go out dirty as well. She's the only member of the Thunderbolts that actually gets killed. I guess the film's trying to give you this false sense of anybody can die at any moment, which isn't the case because nobody else dies throughout the film besides her. But yes, this character only got like 30 seconds of screen time. So let's move on to Bucky. Bucky's a character who's existed in the MCU since 2011 with Captain America the First Avenger. His character's gone through a lot of stuff. In Captain America the Winter Soldier, he was a badass villain. Then in Captain America Civil War, he was basically Steve Rogers' bipolar boyfriend. And in this film, he's kind of just that cool grandpa who shows up to put his badass kids in check. The Thunderbolts have been misbehaving, so Bucky needs to come and clean up this mess. He gets a cool scene on the motorcycle that he's seen in the trailers where he shows up and takes out the Thunderbolts, and he wants to use them to testify against Val. I kind of feel like if Bucky died in this movie, I'd be okay with that. His character's kind of past his peak already. Ever since Steve left, I haven't seen much of a need for Bucky to even be in the MCU at this point. He's already gotten a spin-off show with Anthony Mackie, who he has a great relationship with. You know, Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, they have great chemistry. But I think it's time for Bucky to go. Like, what purpose does this character really have anymore? There's like 500 characters in the MCU at this point. They're all fighting for their own movies. They're all going to be fighting for screen time in the next Avengers movie. So if Bucky had left, I think it would have gave us a good sense of stakes while also feeling, I guess, like closure to his character, because he's gone on a little too long. He's kind of overstayed his welcome. I know he's one of the few OG Phase 1 characters left. There's not too many left at this point, but I mean, what's this guy's purpose now that Captain America, Steve Rogers, is gone? And then we got John Walker. In my opinion, this is the best character of the entire movie. His banter with the team was hilarious, and I loved everything that was coming out of his mouth. He's kind of just a PG-13 soldier boy. He's pretty cool and badass. He's got a super soldier serum, so he can kind of back up a lot of the shit that he talks throughout the film. I kind of felt bad for John Walker when Yelena's like, "Even your family knew you were trash." And I was like, fuck you, bitch. You know? I feel like she went a little too far there. That wasn't necessary. But yes, John Walker, my favorite character of the film. I'm excited to see more of him in the future. John Walker is probably my favorite character that's been introduced recently in the MCU. Since Avengers Endgame, I think his character is very interesting. He has one of the best parts about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, from what I actually remember from that forgettable ass Disney Plus show. Yelena, she's our main character of the film. I thought it was pretty interesting seeing all her moments inside of the void where she's a little girl. You know, you see her try to lure this other little girl into the woods, and then she gets popped. And then you also see her having to be in a competition with a bunch of other little girls where they have to assemble a gun, and if they're too slow, they're going to get whipped in their hands. And then you see Yelena passed out with a bottle of booze. It was just interesting to see a lot of Yelena's tragic moments that she's constantly referring to throughout the film that she regrets so much. I like Yelena. She's not a bad character, but she wasn't anything special, which is kind of a problem when she's kind of the main character of the film. I enjoy when she shows up because I can make fun of her bad Russian accent. Eat shit, Valentina. Her accent's really distracting. It was the same thing for Hawkeye as well. As far as Ghost goes, she has one of the dumbest lines of the entire movie, where she's talking about, "John Walker, aren't you the one who killed that innocent man?" And I'm like, innocent's not the word I'd use to describe a terrorist. But hey, whatever you say, Ghost. Also, it's kind of annoying how she's basically the only one on the team who has any sort of superpowers, and she's constantly being nerfed by these sort of sound things that keep occurring throughout the film. So a lot of times her powers are kind of useless, not very helpful. Ghost also helps the team from getting blown up when Val is trying to kill them, but outside of that, Ghost was pretty useless throughout the film. She's not really a character I liked anyway. She's in one of the worst MCU movies ever made with Ant-Man and the Wasp. She never really got a standout moment in the film. She's one of the only characters that didn't. Even Red Guardian, the goofball, got him a standout moment when he saves the little girl at the end. I feel like that scene would have been a little more impactful if the little girl actually stayed dead. Because there's a scene at the end of the film where Red Guardian, he rushes to save a little girl from a falling debris when Sentry is basically going apeshit on New York, try to save a little girl and she dies anyway. It reminds me of that scene in Invisible where Mark tries to save somebody who's falling and Omni-Man kills him anyway. I feel like that would have been much more impactful, but unfortunately she kind of comes back. Not that I want child murder, but I'm just saying that would have been a lot more impactful and like a holy shit moment if the little girl stayed dead. But he also gets this emotional sort of father-daughter relationship throughout the film, and that's pretty good as well. But outside of that, I didn't really care much for Red Guardian. He's one of the weakest characters in the film, in my opinion. As far as Sentry goes, I liked every scene with the characters going into the void. It would have been a little more interesting if, like, Bucky could have went into the void as well. We could have gotten us a cool Winter Soldier moment. Sort of a missed opportunity if you ask me. But Sentry himself was pretty cool. I liked how you could feel sort of different characters. You had Bob, you had Sentry, and you had the Void. He's kind of like another Bruce Banner where he's sort of a wimpy, nice guy. And then if you push him, he'll turn into a super powerful character who can destroy the entire city. So, seeing a lot of similarities between him and Bruce Banner in the film. Also, I like the scene in Avengers Tower where all the Thunderbolts are trying to beat up Bob or Sentry. And he's kind of just standing there just letting them do whatever they want to him. He's not even trying to deflect or respond to like most of their attacks. I thought that was pretty neat just seeing how powerful this guy is. The whole ending I thought was kind of lame because it's kind of just the team has to hug Bob and let him know he's not alone. That's kind of what defeats Sentry, because Sentry's like turning people into black paint on the streets of New York, which is kind of a problem for the MCU. I wonder if that's ever going to be addressed. The fact that all of New York was sent into the void. They can't all think it was just a nightmare, because we've seen a lot of them freaking out seeing a black figure out in the sky vanishing people with his hands. I wonder if that'll ever be addressed in the MCU, because immediately after there's people with cameras that still give a shit about Val and her stupid little announcement. You would think after that people would be like, who cares about Val or what she has to announce? The city just went through another, like, fucking 9/11. The entire city was literally black. Is that ever going to get addressed in the MCU? Who knows? Overall, I really liked the movie for how it was more sort of character focused. It's a movie that focuses on the characters, their past, and their trauma, and their feelings. It's not just a bunch of CGI cameo fests, which those can work too, but it feels like Marvel's gotten a lot more reliant on those recently. So it's neat to see a sort of grounded movie. I mean, the movie only really takes place in like 3 locations. Avengers Tower, the Valentina's Vault, and then the streets of New York. That's pretty much it. And you get some occasional scenes with Val at a party or Bucky in his apartment. That's about it. I would probably say Thunderbolts is like my 3rd favorite movie since Avengers Endgame. I still would put Guardians 3 and Spider-Man No Way Home over Thunderbolts, but Thunderbolts is still a pretty solid movie. The only thing that really bothered me about the film was kind of the conclusion to Sentry. Like, really? We defeat him by giving him a hug at the end? I get what they were going for, and I guess you could argue, oh, well, at least it wasn't a huge CGI slop fest. Which, yeah, that can get kind of tiring, you know, having the sky beams, and then there's a bunch of nonsense action that you don't really care about. But I don't know, it's just kind of cringe, thinking that they saved the day just by confronting Bob and being like, oh, we'll give you a hug. You know, you see Elaine at the end, she's like, we're here for you, Bob. I'm here. So, I don't know how I feel about that right now. Besides that, I enjoyed the rest of the film. The whole thing with Val didn't really go anywhere. You know, they spent so much of the movie early on talking about, oh, we're going to impeach Val. Oh, we've got her now. We got dirt on her. We're going to get her out of here. She's going to be locked up in prison. And then that kind of just goes nowhere. She introduces some new Avengers, which is kind of laughable that these guys would be your new Avengers. None of them even really have any powers like that. They all kind of have sort of the same skill set. Also, is Val really in any position to announce some new Avengers just because she has Avengers Tower? Is that really how that works? I really enjoyed Thunderbolts, but what did you guys think about it?
All the monumental fights that happened exactly here where you're standing.
I just spoiled everything in it.
I mean, the place wasn't cheap, but
about this movie.
it's got good
In the
optics.
comment section below.
Look at
Did
you.
you like it? Where
You're
does
all
the place
so
belong?
adorable.
Your MCU ranking?
Eat shit,
And which of these
Valentina.
characters are you most excited to see Avengers Doomsday? As for this movie, I'm kind of excited to see John Walker and Sentry return. Those are probably the fourth characters in the film. So I don't see what much of a purpose Bob has on the team if he's never going to be Vincent. So just as Bob is
What
kind
kind
of
of super
useless.
serum did you
And
get?
that Sentry is too
regular.
much of a loose cannon, so
Hydra.
this guy doesn't make a very good team member, if you ask me.
Who's this old
But we shall
Santa?
see in
The
the
Red
next Avengers
Guardian.
movie if he's going to be able to let loose.
What?
Anyway, that's all I got for
Everyone
you
here
guys
has done
today.
bad
Hope you
things.
enjoyed the video. Yeah, I'll see
Shadow
you guys
of.
next time.